If we come through fine, then yeah.
Yeah, 20 is good. Yep, it's fine.
Want to do it then? We're ready to launch. I think
Yeah,
it looks smooth. I'll be watching it for you. Let's go away. Here comes the intro.
And welcome to another TROM-Cast. This time we are going to discuss about sharing, because we have a guest today, Colin, and Colin released a new project, shareby.org. And before talking about this project, shareby.org, and talk more in general about what sharing is and why it's important and so forth, I was curious to talk a bit with Colin about like what is his involvement with like for the past 10 years or so. He made some projects I'm aware of, some free world charter and so forth. So maybe Colin, you can maybe introduce yourself a bit and what have you been doing for the past 10 or so years, or maybe even more, because you were one of those active people who are doing all kinds of projects. And yeah, if you can give us a bit.
Thanks to you. It's my first one. I've watched a couple of them, but I haven't actually been on one yet. So really good. I really admire what you guys are doing and the tenacity of the way you're sticking at it. I think that's really important, first of all. So fair play to all you people for that. I think that the sort of changes that we're trying to implement here really do require determination, because we're up against an enormous machine here. So it's pretty a formidable task. My own story, basically, a brief history, is that in about 2009 or something like that, there was Ireland where I lived, and I still live now, was in a very bad recession after the 2008 crash. Things were really, really bad, and the president of Ireland actually, or the president husband of Ireland actually, launched a competition looking for ideas to basically save the economy or to rescue the economy because things were so bad. So it was basically like a version of Any Ideas, guys, So we, so loads of people submitted things out, and I was still very much into, I suppose, capitalist way of thinking myself, and I submitted many ideas to that competition myself. Some of them did quite well. And there was it was like an election process. You could vote ideas up and down, this sort of stuff. So the idea, it was a really big thing in Ireland at the time. And one of the ideas that had been actually posted on that was somebody who suggested implementing a resource-based economy, like as per the Venus Project. And of course, I never heard of that at the time. And but it was getting huge amounts of votes. It had something like maybe, I don't know, let's say 10,000 votes, when everyone else was like about 3,000 or 4,000 votes. So it'd been very popular. So obviously what had happened was the Venus Project people had got behind this, and they were getting members from all over the world to vote the idea up. And so obviously that was the first time I was exposed to the idea, and I looked, obviously I chased it up and I went down the rabbit hole a little bit, ended up on the Zeitgeist movement and all this kind of stuff. And well, long story short, I was very smitten with the idea. I thought it was absolutely possible. There were aspects of the Venus Project that I didn't like at the time, and which I felt that were putting people off somehow, in the fact that they were proposing too much of a sort of a futuristic, science-based utopia, which I thought was maybe a little bit unrealistic at the time. And many of my friends at the time who I introduced the idea also had similar reservations about it. And so I set about trying to create something that I thought could express the same idea, but in some very simple terms, and ways that could be more accessible to people rather than presenting this like futuristic cities and all this sort of stuff that Venus Project does. So I just wanted to create something that was very basic, that was like a social contract, as it were, for behaving in a certain way towards better outcomes and towards like mindless living. So that's the charter came from that. And at that time, the Facebook and all the social media was really in the ascendancy. So we kind of rode on the back of that with Zeitgeist, movie, and all that kind of stuff. And the charter
When was that?
did
When
really
was
well.
all of this? When was
Pardon?
all of this? Like
When?
what year was?
This would be late 2010, 2011. So, and then 2012, like Facebook was I think was probably like the peak of Facebook's sort of ascendancy at that time. 2012, it was really growing massively, and that helped us enormously, of course, as well. And of course, Facebook at that time, they weren't throttling posts. You know, that you could basically post something and people would see it, instead of nowadays where it's all very controlled. So that was that sort of got the charter up and running. It was good, and we have about 60,000 people who signed up to that. And well, over that, since that time, really, my own thinking has even evolved more so in terms of the things that I've tried and the ideas that I've been exposed to. And the culmination of all that really has been the idea of creating this sharing site called ShareBay, because it occurred to me that, I mean, it sounds a really simple thing to say, but it's so obvious that actually you want to create a money-free society. Well, this is a sharing society where people give and work for each other basically for free. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's no way around that. You know, you can't science your way around that. You can't automate your way out of that. It's basically it's a fact that we will have to provide and work for each other unconditionally to make that society work. And that's not even to say that that kind of society is guaranteed, but it means to say that unless we do this sharing and becoming more voluntary in our efforts, unless we do that, we won't get to a moneyless society. So that's really kind of where I'm at now, I suppose, from an ideological point of view, is that I just don't think that this moneyless society can happen until we actually break this habit of trading that we have and doing more things for each other unconditionally. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I started a site called freeworlder.com or .org, and that was kind of like a social network site, and we were encouraging people to post different items or services that they'd like to share with each other. And that was quite a small site, but it was quite socially focused. It was kind of like a Facebook type site, so it was more about people posting things and messaging each other and stuff, which was cool. But I really wanted to focus on getting down to the nitty-gritty of actually sharing goods and services and creating transactions based around that. And that's really the focus of the ShareBay idea, is this idea of creating a transaction record, because this provides a sort of social proof that what we're doing can work, rather than just like sharing things without organization. If we just organize a little bit, it gives us a kind of a count. It shows who is accountable. It shows reputation. It shows that it's working. So that's really what I'm at now at the moment. The ShareBay site just launched just about 2 weeks ago. We did a kind of a soft launch, so it's been gradually over the last couple of weeks. And happy to say we have over 1,800 members now, and just about over 11,000 things on the inventory. We have what we call the inventory, is basically all the stuff that's on it. So you can think of the site really as kind of like an enormous global library, where people can go on and avail of things from the library, or they can contribute to the library. It's really that's as simple as it works. And when people do take things or give things, then it's all recorded in the transaction record. So there's a record to see that it's been working. Yep.
Yes, and we're going to go a bit in detail about the ShareBay, but that's why I wanted to see where do you come from basically with these ideas, and what do you think like we should do in this world. Like you recognize that this money-based system is basically corrupt, and we cannot do much to change it, so we have to like push it aside. Now the question is how to push it aside, and one way that you are trying, as far as I understand, is saying that we should unconditionally just share our skills and share goods and services, so maybe we can rely on that eventually, so we don't rely on just giving stuff to take something in return, what we like this trading a game, but just giving and not expecting anything in return. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's two things I would say about that, and the one is that the conventional sort of resource-based economy thinking is that it doesn't really include this basic idea of sharing and unconditionally volunteering. It doesn't really specify that in any of the stuff that I've read, and I think that's a huge mistake. And the second thing is that I've lost the second train I was going to say now. But the resource-based economy, the thing that basically the Venus Project or the Zeitgeist movement promotes, neither of which they don't specify sharing as being anything that's important. And actually, I sent an email to, I think it was Roxanne. I was talking to Roxanne in the Venus Project, and I was talking about this idea of sharing and building a sharing website at the time. And she actually told me that she thought, quote unquote, that sharing was irrelevant, which I was absolutely shocked by, I have to say, because how can it be irrelevant, And yeah.
Go ahead. I was going to say maybe because their idea is more like you own less stuff, right? So you kind of have a library of things where you can take some stuff from and use it and then bring it back. And in a way, that's kind of like sharing too, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the idea of common ownership and that sort of stuff. But it's. I mean, if you break it down to in real world terms, how things would actually work in that kind of society. I mean, you are always going to be leaning on different people, or they're going to be leaning on you to provide different skills or different specialist services that maybe no one else could provide. For example, like I'm a musician, so maybe somebody's going to be requiring me to perform or to entertain or something like that. I mean, you can't get that from a library, or you can't automate it, or it's not the same if you do. The point is that there's no way around that. We all have, the society is based on the fact that we all have various different skills, and that's what our economy is based on, that we all actually have something different to offer, and we bring that to the table. But the idea of the Venus Project saying that was, or Roxanne saying that was irrelevant was really a shocker to me, because it's just so obvious that you couldn't actually expect a society like that to work without it. Oh, I remember my second point. My second point was that that the resource-based economy approach is like an all or nothing approach. It's like one day you're living in this world, next minute you build this city or you build this community, and then you introduce resource-based economy. It kind of happens in the flick of a switch, which I think is really, it's way too much to hope for that could actually happen in the first place, or B, that it would actually stick without being corrupted by the outside or without being corrupted from inside. I think it's just too much of a risk. If you give someone a check for like $100 billion and they go off and build a city somewhere, I mean, there's no guarantee that that's going to work. And the way things are, the way people are already wired, it's absolutely going to be corrupted. It's just, it doesn't matter how much technology you throw at it. The problem is not our lack of technology. The problem is our lack of compassion, our lack of empathy, our lack of thinking towards group outcomes rather than self outcomes. And I think that what's important about sharing and ShareBay is that it's something that we can do right now, today, in a small way. There's no conflict between that and the existing system. So it's something that can absolutely exist in tandem with the way the world works now, and then we can have ShareBay. If you imagine, like, you have the global economy and you have ShareBay, one is enormous, the other one is absolutely microscopic. But maybe if we keep at it, we can shrink one and grow the other. And this is kind of transitioning us from one mindset into another. So ShareBay, obviously, if you look at it there today, there's lots of things on offer, but you will find that most of the things are really quite low value, not particularly important things. Some people are offering like healing, or they're offering advice or counseling and that sort of stuff, which is things that people can do quite easily. But you don't have sports cars or houses or stuff like that on there yet, But the idea is that if we build confidence in that idea, by all of us using it, by engaging in it, it's like you're shrinking one type of economy and you're creating another type of economy. It's like you're ballooning from one into another. With small moves today, we can transition into bigger moves tomorrow, bigger shares tomorrow. That's the theory.
Because I think, for example, from my experience with TVP, they always had this vision of a grandiose plan of just completely switching to another society somehow. And I think I realize now, not working with them after 3 or so years, not working with them, that they kind of blinded me a bit about the good that's already happening in this world. Because as far as I've seen there, working with them, they kind of push that aside. Like, okay, volunteer groups and sharing stuff are like, okay, nice, but irrelevant, kind of irrelevant. We need something, a completely structured. These are just patchworks. And I feel like that's not true. That's not true. You cannot just push aside all of these things and say that they are patchwork. In a way, I understand that if you just do good things and so forth, and you don't address the problem of this society, then you just do good things like Wikipedia and so forth, but you don't have any educational movement there to make people aware what's wrong with our society. So you just, in a sense, that could be a patchwork, that can be seen as a patchwork. But if you also maybe emphasize, what's wrong with this society, maybe you are creating a good service for people, helping them and also educating them about what is the problem, So that's why I feel like, in a sense, TVP was wrong, but it was also a bit right, that if you don't talk about what creates problems, then you may not go anywhere with that. But I want to mention that because now too, we switched the focus from TVP as the main thing with TROM to focusing on a problem, and we created recently the trade-free directory to highlight all kinds of organizations that offer trade-free goods and services. And now that's why we talk to you, because we want to see what else you create there, because I think these acts of goodness, of sharing, need to be amplified, but they also need to be maybe more educational toward why you are doing them, because you don't just do them, as far as I understand, to share things. You also are talking here about how this society is kind of messed up, so you want for that to be, in a way, a part of the solution to switch from this system, right? And maybe your connection is lost.
Oh yeah.
Frozen.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to mention quickly that, I don't know, TROM servers are fucked up now. They don't quite work. So, because I wanted to say, if you go on tromsite.com/chat, you can message. Let's see.
Oh yeah. No, I did notice that when I tried to reload.
Yeah, I was trying to fix this and also focus, and fix this and also focus.
You got your test message.
So, okay, that's good.
It's not
We'll
working.
wait for Colin to. Now probably it's working. We'll wait for Colin to come back. And Cody, if you also can showcase.
Yeah. I have been showing some stuff. Boom.
Well, we are talking about it. I think it's the point I also talking with Sasha that I was kind of blind when I was with working with in regards to this kind of organizations and good acts in the world. I was almost saying, well,
Dude, you're cutting up pretty bad with your audio right now.
whatever. They make understand something. My internet is.
It's
Yeah.
we
Yeah, it's
couldn't hear
almost-
any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
was
it's
pretty
almost
bad.
impossible to understand.
I think now
God.
it's better. Maybe. Maybe not.
Okay, now it's better. Maybe
Yeah,
yes, maybe not.
No, yeah, you're good. You're good again.
Well, yeah, I'll just
Oh, okay,
maybe
yep.
Colin.
Yep.
Let's wait for Colin.
Welcome
Okay,
back.
Colin, you're back now.
Right, good.
I'm not sure where you.
What happened there?
Okay. Yeah, I was just quickly mentioning that, we TVP people, maybe even when I was there, we kind of don't pay attention to such things like your project or other projects like ours. So I think that's it's a good point to make that TVP may just be. I don't want to talk much about TVP, but I felt that too. That these things are just patchwork and so forth.
I would say when you talking to people who are supportive of the resource-based economy idea, certainly the TVP people who are supporting that really, from my mind, they're completely an all or nothing approach. It's like one day we're doing this, and next day we're doing resource-based economy. This is kind of the instant approach, which I think is just unrealistic. And then on the other hand, I have also a lot of other people, and probably more so of other resource-based economy supporters who actually have no idea how to get there, who don't even have a clue. I'm sorry, but a lot of people, they look on the ideas, they like the ideas, they follow the pages, they follow the people, but they don't really make that connection between where we are now ideologically and where we need to get to, or how we need to morph ideologically to get from here to there. And I always get into trouble for saying to people that really the problems with the world are actually our fault. They are our problems. It's nothing to do with any politician or any CEO or anything like that. The problems are all our shared problems. The way we act and the way we what we expect of life and how we operate in the world really is the seed of all the actual problems with capitalism. It comes from billions and billions of people basically behaving in a very inward-looking, selfish way, basically, and not thinking about or caring about the externalities of what's going on, what's the consequences of their acts, and what's the best way to act themselves. Now, you can say this is lack of education, or you can say people just don't give a damn, and there's probably people on both sides of that spectrum. But the fact of the matter is, the blame, I feel, rests with us, because we don't think in the right sort of way that's going to create the right sort of society that all us guys here are basically working for. That's the one thing I find most challenging with dealing with people who are on the resource-based economy side, is that they really don't understand their role in actually making that change. Everyone wants like Jacques Fresco or Michael Tellinger or someone else to basically come down on a fucking back of a unicorn and basically, make all this happen. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen that way. It's ridiculous. So only by just small acts of sharing. That's just my idea. Maybe I'm completely fucking wrong, but this is just. I've been on, and this is the end of like a 10-year journey ideologically, I suppose, for me, where I kind of arrived to this point where I just don't see any other way. That it basically, it's got to be about us unconditionally giving and volunteering, and there's no other way a money-free society can work, in my opinion. But like I say, I could be wrong. It could be just some crazy guy, but.
I think first we could talk a bit about the ShareBay, how it works, and give some examples and so forth, and we have some questions for you, and then we get more into I want to ask you more about money versus trade, or this society, or what can we do about it and so forth. But let's get a bit into the ShareBay.org.
Sure.
So I know also about Free Work Charter website. So you said that Free Work Charter was just a place where people could share not only goods, but also their services. Like, I can help you with something, and you can ask for that, which could be a much easier, of course, way to provide a service if it's online. I can help you with something rather than sending you a product. How is this website different? What are its core features, for example?
Yeah, well, a lot of this, there are many similar sites and apps available. Notable ones are ones like Olio, which is kind of based around London. That's like a food sharing app where basically you download it and you can find out which supermarkets in your area have food that they're throwing away, and you can get that. But I think maybe you have to pay one of the supermarkets have to pay a small fee or something like that. So it's free to use. They got a huge amount of following. They got like 2 million downloads, something like that, like 2 million users on that, which is fantastic. In Spain, you have Gratix. You probably know this. This is it's another kind of skill and resource sharing app. That seems to be doing quite well. But again, it's Spanish based. There's another one in the States called Kindista, which I think is quite small. Again, very locally based. In the UK, you have helpfulpeeps.com. Again, it's quite locally based. But all these guys are actually doing really well. These sites are actually very busy. Lots of people sharing and helping each other on that. So in that way, there's nothing really massively unique about ShareBay. It's not like world changing, turning all the other guys on its head. It's not really like that. It's doing pretty much the same thing, but I'm trying to make it as much as possible a global site rather than a localized site, because what I've seen in other apps and other applications like that is that they tend to become very nucleated. Like, for example, this one, Olio, I was telling you, in London, it's only in London. It's really popular in London, but it can't spread outside that, you know. So what I'm trying to do with ShareBay is to encourage more of this global community, global sharing. And so we're adding features like where the buyer can offer to pay postage, for example. So if you have some guy in Australia that has something useful that you want, then instead of just not getting it, you can basically offer to pay the postage. We haven't got that's not actually in there yet. You have to sort of do that manually through the messaging service. But eventually, we'd like to just set it up in such a way where basically the postage is actually prepaid. So all the guy who's giving the thing just has to agree to pack it and send it, and he'll have the cost of the postage reimbursed. Also, the idea of gifting services and goods together, that's kind of a little bit unique as well. Like Olio is like food, for example, only, whereas we're kind of we're open to anything. We have like 50 or 51. We have about 51 categories of different types of things that you can share. So I basically use like the Amazon and eBay categories, like electronics and babies and all this sort of stuff. So so everything is kind of categorized there, so you can go in and hopefully find what you want. So really what ShareBay is trying to do differently, I suppose, it's trying to be a global service from the beginning, and it's trying to cater to all different types of sharing or types of library activities, I suppose, if you like. So
and since I want to quickly ask, because you mentioned those applications, and I'm aware of some of them. I was thinking that the main the core of such applications are the users, because without users, there won't be any goods or services posted there. So it's a huge reliance on users. How can you go around that, basically, since they have such a massive amount of users, but starting kind of new with not many users, that can be a downside. So I'm sure you have to be thinking about this.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I would say that actually users is not as important as inventory. So this is why I'm thinking I'm trying to focus on the inventory of the site more so than the users, because I know that they're kind of linked, obviously, but I'm thinking if you think of users before inventory, you're missing the point, because what happens is that you might have a lot of people, but there's nothing really useful or interesting being shared there. So it's more important that you have a really diverse and big inventory to attract people to go there. I mean, it's the simple argument is like that Amazon.com, we go there, we generate the first one we think of because we know it's got a massive inventory. We know that more or less we're going to find what we want on there. So we don't go to Amazon because of all the other customers, because of all the users. We go there because of the inventory, and obviously because it's famous, etc. But the fact is that because the inventory is what attracts people. Because I mean, we do have self-interest, and there's nothing wrong with self-interest to a point. I mean, I'm not anti-self-interest. In fact, it's really vital that we're self-interested. But to attract people, more people, we have to appeal to that self-interest, so they can be assured that they will find the things, the goods, or the services that they're looking for on ShareBay. So that's why my focus is really trying to get the inventory up. One of the strategies that we're going to use there is to try and encourage people to post more listings. So I had sort of considered at the beginning making it mandatory to post a minimum listing, but I think that would just piss people off. So that's basically we're going to try and introduce a thing where we're going to give people ideas of stuff that they can list and stuff that they can put towards the site. So that's the strategy. Of course, yeah, it's a new site. It's very small in compared to the other ones, but hey, we've got to start somewhere. And one of the other concerns, actually, while I think of it, one of the other things that concerns me about the resource-based economy movement in general is that it's, I don't know how to put this delicately, but they're not really that proactive, shall we say. A lot of people who are kind of follow the ideas, they're not interested in getting their hands dirty and doing things or putting themselves out in any way. So I find a lot of people are just very comfortable with that idea, but don't really want to do anything. That's the majority, in my opinion. So I want to get out of that loop. I want to get out of the resource-based economy sort of circle. I want to try and make this mainstream site because it's going to be too limited with the small number of people.
Yeah, and recently, Couchsurfing, and we discussed a bit about it in the last TROM-Cast. Couchsurfing was this platform where you can share your home, basically. You share a bed and so forth. And they put a price tag and now and then force users to pay and so forth. But what I want to say is that there are other alternatives out there, like Trust Roots and others. And Sasha made a blog about this, and she traveled a lot.
I read it.
Yes. And one guy commented something like, "Yeah, I love this all of these things, but if I go travel somewhere and I'm searching on Trust Routes, I don't find any place. I will go and use Couchsurfing." So I'm a bit afraid of such services, although I really love them. I'm a bit afraid that people will say, "Okay, I want to search for something," they don't find it there, and people have such a short maybe attention span or whatever you want to call it, that they will move to something that's popular.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
They'll just go on eBay.
Yes, absolutely. Olio. Go ahead, Sasha.
No, I was going to say, or maybe Olio or something. But yeah, go on.
Yes, yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, that's the dangers of any sort of new venture or any project where you're relying on users. Of course, that unless you're giving, it's the same with business. Unless you're giving the people a good product or service, they're just going to go to your competitor, So all you can do is do your best and try and, there's a lot of stuff we can learn from sort of traditional enterprising methods, like good customer service and giving a good diversity of products, listening to people, hearing what they want.
I think it's a lot about also popularity, because there are many services out there who are maybe a lot better than Google's products or whatever, but they cannot penetrate that market because they are too big. Like Facebook, it's not anything unique about Facebook. There are many social platforms that are maybe better, but they are such a big monopoly. Same Couchsurfing has such a big monopoly. And in terms of sharing platforms, that's I think the biggest concern maybe here from my perspective, that you may not be able to have a bigger database of users and items there, so that people can basically use it. Like I was searching, of course it's in the beginning, but I was searching for stuff and closest to me, but I couldn't find, of course, now because I'm also in the very small town in Spain. Of course, you could find in the closest was UK or something like that on SharePay when I searched for something. But of course, it's in the beginning, and you need people posting a lot more stuff there. So that's of course what you are. Everyone has to deal with these things. Like you look at Mastodon, who's like an alternative for Facebook and other social platforms. They cannot quite get there to many people because people use Facebook. It's difficult for them to migrate to such things. So I feel like this is always going to be a problem, but it's worth mentioning.
No, absolutely, of course. And it's the same with any project, as I was saying. So any sort of initiative where you're relying on public support or popularity to improve, of course. All you can do is our best, and just keep sticking at it. There is no obvious. I mean, even though SharePay is very small, I don't know of any obvious global competitor as such. Maybe apart from Facebook itself, in terms of Facebook Marketplace, sometimes people do share goods and services on that. I know that the guys who do the Buy Nothing project, they're launching an app, I think, shortly. So that might be something else. So yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of just keep going with it and just try and provide the best possible service we can, and just hope that people will latch onto that. I mean, let's not forget that some of these. There's another one called Street Bank, also based in UK. You might have heard of. That's hugely popular as well. They have like I don't know, a couple of 100,000 people on there. So we need to get some press involved. We need to cut some nice, interesting stories from that and do all that kind of stuff, that promotional end of things. I don't really believe in organic or viral marketing anymore. I think it's kind of basically dead. I think you have to sort of zap it with a little bit of promotional work, and maybe even pay for news releases and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, we can do our best. Is all we can do our best. And if we just keep going and providing a good service, we'll hopefully get some traction going. You know.
Also, Colin? There are. Oh yeah, okay, sure, Damon.
Yeah. I just want to ask. Colin, how do you see the ShareBay and, let's say, similar website which based on sharing? Is it still like a patchwork, which is basically kind of adjusted for today's reality, and whether let's say the same Venus projects, which projects like Utopian Future, and everything should be, automated in order to get something, but it's not possible to do today. And the sharing is kind of something that we, like any of us can do like right away and still get somewhere. Let's say similar like UBI, Universal Basic Income. It's not gonna solve, the problems, but it's still like a step forward somewhere better.
Yeah,
and how do you see it? Like, is it like the sharing is like another stepping stone, or it's something that could stay like in our mentality?
Yeah, I think it can be that you can look at it on two levels. On the one hand, it could be like a stepping stone to help people who are kind of who are deprived, or people who are short of goods and services. Maybe they can lean on something like ShareBay to help them get basic requirements. One of the things I'm hoping to launch is like an emergency listing page, where basically if you're short of food, if you're short of fuel, if you're short of anything that's important, or clean water or something like that, you can post like a listing and it'll automatically go out to people in your area. So I want to try and key into this kind of into people's basic needs as well. People who are shall we say poor people, basically people who don't have enough, who have problems with their own personal economy, that maybe they could turn to ShareBay to actually get the things they need. And of course, like you say, this is kind of like you could say it's like a stepping stone to a better type of world, and that's true. But I also think that ideologically, from a neural connections point of view, I think that we have to move from the self-interested capitalistic mindset that we all have. I mean, well, like 99.9% of us, we all have, towards a sharing mindset, because we can't create that moneyless society, resource-based economy, whatever the hell you're going to, trade-free economy, whatever you call it. We can't have that until we actually realize that actually sharing and volunteering must be common currency for that to happen. And it's just not going to happen any other way. And like I say, it's kind of like the end of that ideological journey for me, from the days of doing the Free World Charter. I think even when I was writing the Free World Charter, I didn't really have an idea or a sense as to how that could actually happen. Just that, well, this would be a nice contract to have, but I didn't really know at that time how it was going to happen. People often would ask me at the time, so how do we transition to a Free World Charter world? And my answer was, what did I used to say? It's just something like, well, we just keep going. We just keep moving forward and keep doing things, and eventually answers will present themselves over time, which most people weren't happy with, and I wasn't happy about it really either. But now I think that that is specifically the problem. I think when we look at the problems of the world today, I think when you learn to identify yourself as being like 7.5 billionth part of that problem, and not that somebody else is fucking you and making the problem, when you take responsibility for that, then you I certainly came to realize that actually to get to that different type of moneyless world, we have to be sharing. We have to start that mindset. We have to start changing the way we think about how we get the things we need. Hello there.
Hey. So you are?
Yeah, I totally agree with you about the mindset. It's really good, like very good wording you put it in, because like in today's society, basically sharing or volunteering at some point it's mean that you're hurting yourself, instead of earning money and like because you need money for your survival. Yeah, let's be clear here. And you're doing something for free, you're basically hurting. Right now we're like in such situation. But how do you see, like, is it possible to run a global society based on sharing?
That's the big question, really, isn't it? And to be honest, I can't put my hand on my heart and say yes, because I don't know that, and I think that's the only honest answer we can give at that point. I hope we can. I more than hope we can. I think that people are basically good. I think all people are basically good once you understand them a little bit better. Even your racists and your police guys and your fucking right-wing politicians. I mean, we're all basically good. We all basically have the same sort of way of going on. We just have, I don't know, different ways of expressing it or something. But I think when you get to know someone personally, you always find something good in that person. You always do, no matter who they are, and what they stand for. So I think there is this basic common sense of goodness in us all. It's just the question really is, can we express that as a global community and actually learn to really trust each other and to really get on well with each other and to provide for each other unconditionally? Can we do that? Well, I think we know that can happen in very small pockets of things like family units or small communities. It can happen, but can it happen on a global scale? I don't know. I think one of the differences between sharing, say, on a global scale and sharing, say, on a family scale is that in the family unit, everyone knows each other, everyone trusts each other. So there's kind of like it's like an enclosed system of trust. Everyone knows each other, whatever, and if somebody does something good, you'll thank them for that, or if they do something bad, you'll punish them or not speak to them for a few years or something like that. But in the global sense, and part of the reason we have money as well is because we don't have trust in the wider community, in the wider society. So we use money as a kind of as a token of trust, So I pay you to do something because I don't really trust you. So I don't know if you're going to give it back to me. So I'm going to pay you instead. And then we don't have to speak to each other again, and that's basically how the money system operates. So the question is, can we have that blind sort of trust in people that everyone's going to look after each other? And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have the transaction record in ShareBay. That's why I think it's so important to actually track what's happening, who is sharing, how much are they sharing, how much they're giving and taking. I mean, I'd love to say that maybe that wouldn't be necessary. We should all just share unconditionally, and that's nice, and that's the way it should be. But maybe from where we are now to get to where we want to be, maybe we just need to kind of give ourselves a little bit of a help here, and so we can kind of keep track on how much you're giving, how much you're getting. So if I'm offering something to a few of you guys on ShareBay, I have the option to kind of look into your profile and see, well, who's the more deserving of it, by how much they're giving and sharing and all other sort of stuff. And even though that's kind of like a dirty way of looking at it, but I think that we need to have that sort of level of trust now, because it's so absent from our culture. Really, that everything is just paid, and we don't actually we don't enter into relationships. We don't enter into friendships with people that provide for us. We just pay, and that's the end of it. So we need to have some kind of measure, some kind of metric, just to have some idea who we're dealing with. Because at the end of the day, you have somebody is requesting something from you. You don't know who they are. There could be maybe they're going to try and profit off you. Maybe you're going to give them something and they're going to sell it, or maybe they're just they're exploiting you some way. So you need to have that reputation in the same way as Couchsurfing or Trust Roots or the other ones all probably operate on reputation. You know, people like to have that sort of safety net to know who they're dealing with, who they're talking about.
Just don't ask people money for verification, okay? That's what Couchsurfing did. Couchsurfing was like, if you want to be verified, you have to pay us. And
oh, that's right. Yes, yeah. I read that. Actually, Sasha, I meant to say, I read your blog. It was really, really nice. Very well written, actually. I liked that. It was really nice. And it was quite shocking to hear about how Couchsurfing has completely changed. Because for me, Couchsurfing, they were always like one of the good guys floating around out there. And to see the way they turned like that is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, they slowly went down this path of profit making. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, while I have you, one thing I noticed on the blog that you wrote was you mentioned Wikipedia, and I love Wikipedia courses. Everyone loves Wikipedia, but actually, it might surprise you to learn that actually Wikipedia costs $25 million a year to run. I was fucking gobsmacked when I heard this, and apparently they're always overfunded. So they do like fundraisers every year. Probably you've seen that on their
Jimmy Wales.
Jimmy Wales, yeah. Apparently they're hugely funded, and yet this guy, if you look up on the internet, you'll see people complaining about this guy saying, "Oh, I'm Jimmy Wales, I'm broke again. Please help me with no money," and all that sort of stuff. But the guy's got like millions in shored up cash, basically, for Wikipedia. So I don't know who's paying him all that money, but somebody is. But probably, I'm sure he gets big handouts from Google or stuff like that, I'm sure as well, which is fair enough, I suppose. But 25 million to run a few servers, I don't know, I couldn't square that one.
They also pay some people to work with the articles and stuff. I don't know. I don't really know how Wikipedia operates, but I think the point that I was making though in the article, and the point that we make, in the trade free directory and in TROM in general, is that okay, maybe Wikipedia might take a lot of money to run. I don't know if there's something sketchy going on in the background that you're talking about. I don't know, but the thing is, for the person that's using Wikipedia, it is trade free, because for me, I can go onto the website and I can use it without having to donate to them, without having to pay to access the site, without having to look at ads, without having any kind of trackers, things like that. So that's what we're talking about here, and what I was talking about in the article is that Wikipedia is trade free for the user, regardless of how much money it takes for them to fund.
I agree, yeah, and I really like the Wikipedia model. I think it's the best way possibly to operate in this current paradigm or this current society. Is like for a site like ShareBay, of course, it costs pretty much nothing to run. But eventually, if it did get really, really busy, it would get expensive. Like servers do get pricey, and of course, you will have some sort of administration costs, people to keep an eye on the tech side, if it gets that big. So I would certainly favor that sort of Wikipedia approach, maybe create a kind of a foundation or something like that, and people can chuck in money just to pay for the running of us, So yeah, no, absolutely, I agree with you on Wikipedia. Yeah, I love it. I think it's great, and I think it's the best way you can operate in this current system, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Because of course you need that you still have costs, but if you can raise enough money through donations and not require that from people, then
as long as you put you want something more from your users than the service that you provide. So you say, I want my users to see my ads, or I want my users to pay for this, or I want my users' data. Then it's a very slippery slope, So that's how these services go about being completely, they shift away from their initial goal eventually. But Wikipedia, for example, or Internet Archive, is another one very big. They say, we don't want any of that. We want the service that we provide. And we detach that from our, because and say, we offer you premium accounts or something like that. Then your goals will shift. You don't just want to provide a good service for users. You also want their money, or you also want their data. So I think it should be, that's why we call them, for example, trade free. So Cody, you cannot hear me?
You're okay, but you were breaking up. You're okay. Go.
Okay, I'm trying to. Okay. So that's why we label these services as trade free, because as long as they are trade free for the users, it means that they don't want anything from you. It's not that incentive anymore. And just like, hi Alexio, because your first time participating, so I wanted to tell people Alexio is helping with TROM-Jaro and testing stuff and all kinds of things. So I'm happy to see you, man, for first time on TROM-Cast. And whenever you want to say something about sharing, I know that this guy has. If you want something that's shareable, at one point, Alexia was suspecting that you are a bot, or suspecting that you are like an automated bot on Trom chats, because you want something that's shareable. This guy finds the links or finds the service. He knows so many. Like, what the fuck? So whenever you want to share with us some really interesting projects here, because you could talk about sharing, you let us know. Okay. So yeah, that was my point about Wikipedia, and then don't put that incentive there. Yeah, I think that's important.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I've been discussing with various people, of course, how we would go forward with financing the thing, and of course the subject of advertising came up, which I would find absolutely abhorrent. I'd rather fucking close it down than do that, because it's just an absolute pet hate for me, is going to a site and being bombarded with ads. For me, it's not worth it at all. I think I would favor. I mean, if we weren't doing the Wikipedia model, I would favor nearly having premium accounts over having advertising. But I don't. That was the original thinking behind ShareBase. Kind of said that it would be free for you and me, but maybe we could get like larger organizations like Red Cross or Medicine Sans Frontiers involved, and these sort of guys. Maybe we could charge them a small annual fee to have a presence there on the site, and that still may be an option. So it would just be like for large organizations, the guys who can afford to pay, basically, they would pay for a premium service. But I'm leaning more towards the foundation idea. I think, again, this is all in the future anyway. You have to see how we're going to get on with engagement and that sort of stuff, But so far, it's actually very promising. We have a lot of stuff there already, like in the last couple of weeks. So it's pretty interesting. I think it's worth mentioning, actually, Theo and guys, that I think there is a general shift in sort of the greater population, and I'm not talking about resource-based economy people at all. I'm talking about regular folk. I know people personally now who would never agree with a money-free society, and yes, they are acting in this kind of sharing mindset of they're becoming more eco-aware. They're becoming more conscious about their own decisions. They're becoming more conscious about their purchases. And this is happening everywhere, and it's not. So I think that the time for this kind of sharing, sort of facilitating sort of apps or applications it's a great time for that now, because that's kind of in the ascendancy now. This kind of change in mindset. I mean, I'm sure you guys have experienced this as well. People who are not maybe as extreme as money-free, trade-free, or resource-based economy, but people who are just generally more aware of the world, more conscious about their decisions, and more becoming more compassionate. Like veganism is a really good example of this. Actually, I don't know if all you guys are vegan or what, but it's a massive upsurge in veganism everywhere. And what is veganism really, except it's just compassion? That's, for me, that's the only reason really to be a vegan, is just compassion. All the rest is irrelevant. But if that sort of mindset, because it is kind of equating to some sort of seismic change in our way we're operating as people, and so that's why I'm kind of hopeful that sites like ShareBase can actually do well, not just among the people that we share sort of ideas with, but also people out in the greater world who are thinking along these lines already.
Colin, go on, Sash.
Okay, I was just wondering, so, I mean, if your main idea is basically to spread this idea and to have people share more, then would you not rather, or have you thought about this before, about, say, rather than starting your own ShareBase website, or your own website to say join Olio or some other already existing platform that has a big user base and try to help them to grow it globally. Have you thought about that before, or why would you not want to go in that direction?
For a couple of reasons. When I first started with this idea, I was looking around to see what sort of sites were offering something close to the idea I had. And the one I saw was closest was maybe Free Cycle. If you know Free Cycle, freecycle.org. And actually, but I looked at their website and it was a fucking mess. It was really, really badly done. It was all over the place. They had like groups and moderators kind of scattered all over the world, and like loads of the groups were dead. The moderator had lost interest and that sort of stuff. So I looked at that, and a couple of years ago, I did some fundraising to start building this, the Free Worlder site as it was at that time. And I actually approached the guys in Free Cycle. I said, well, look, we're these guys or whoever I was saying, introduced myself at that time and saying, look, we can help you build an app for this, and we're interested in getting involved. So I wanted to basically work with them and to help them make an app, but they refused, which was, I don't know why, but anyway, they did. They more or less said no. And I didn't see anything else that was similar to the idea I had, which I was very adamant that I wanted to be global and not locally based.
I see some benefits to starting off local. For example, Olio, because I've used Olio before when I was in Bristol, and I thought it worked quite well because it was local, because somebody offered some extra food or all kinds of stuff too. They have more than food, but somebody offers something and then somebody can just come over, pick it up and take it. It's easy transactions. You have some extra eggs, so okay, I'll pick them up and take them. So I feel like even if it starts local, maybe it has potential to grow.
Yeah. Well, maybe Olio is the proof of that, but from what I know of Olio, it's all their usership is based in around London. Maybe I didn't know it extended as far as Bristol, but from what I can see, it's getting as far as London. But has it kind of expanded outside the UK? I suppose it could eventually, yeah. But I from all the sites that I've looked at, like most of them are quite small sites. They all tend to be localized and stay localized. One of the things that ShareBay obviously is we obviously, because we're offering services as well, that a lot of people can offer remote services like proofreading or graphic design or web design, that sort of stuff. These can be done anywhere. So I think that it lends itself to being able to be used globally in that way quite easily. And
do you think that? Doing that, because I wanted to emphasize on this point that you made, that people can also offer services. Do you think that this can also be a weak point in the sense that people can offer anything? Because I've seen some offering ShareBay, like sharing a video, and it's like offering sharing that video and some receiving that video. So maybe they can abuse that system in a sense. Because anything can be labeled as a service. What do you think about that?
I don't know. Well, when you go to list something on ShareBay, you have a choice of selecting a physical item or just a service. That's the best way that we can to. Well, I mean, we don't really need to safeguard against somebody sharing a video. I mean, that's okay. One of the things that we have to be careful about is obviously is sharing of digital goods and services like music or torrents or stuff like that. We have to be careful of that, because that we could get shut down for that. So in a way, we're trying to be like Napster for goods and services. Really, that's the best way we're kind of trying to do. So, but if we start putting digital goods and stuff on there, we could find ourselves in trouble. So we don't want to encourage people putting links and videos there. But so we're really trying to encourage services and items. I think that the more people, maybe ShareBay will eventually, maybe it will morph into something that's more about people giving services than it is about items. I don't know yet. It's still too early to say. But my idea is that it will actually be for both equally, so that people can actually share items as well as services. And I think the services thing kind of facilitates this kind of the global operation more so than items does. Also, when you're sharing an item or a service, you can actually opt to only offer it locally. So it means that it won't turn up in other people's searches that are outside that area. So if you select local only, it's visible to people within 50 kilometers, say, and outside you can't see that. So that's another way we have to kind of promoting the local thing. Yeah, I mean, as Sasha said, it's possible that things can go better from locally and to globally. Yeah, I think maybe it's possible. Yeah, but I'd like to try to think of it more in global terms first to see, can we make a go of it as making a global community of people doing it more so, and also the option of people paying postage. I think as well, when you give people that option, that's not really done well yet in the site, but when we have that option, that will hopefully open up more things. Like, for example, a guy is sending me a voice recorder. He offered a voice recorder on the thing, so I've requested that item from him, and it's coming from Spain, and I'm going to refund him the postage or pay him the postage, and everyone's happy with that. So that's something that's just one example of how it can be done. And I think most people would be happy to pay small postage if it's something that we're really interested in. But yeah,
talk more a bit about the content moderation. How is that happening? How do you plan to moderate the content? Just to give you an example, I've started the listings by date, and I saw like many of them added by just one user, and I don't think he shares anything. I think he's just like saying, I have some eggs, but we want to make an egg factory, or have some shoes, and and it's a lot of that. So how can you deal with people who will implode the site with such requests, such listings? How do you deal with that?
But we obviously have there is a spam reporting facility on the site that anyone can report any listing or any profile. So anyone is writing anything dodgy on there, obviously users they'll see it and they'll mark it as spam. And if we reach a certain threshold of enough people mark it, then it just gets automatically deleted. So there's a bot that basically goes through the site once an hour, and if it finds anything that's been marked a certain amount of times, it just deletes it. Same with profiles as well. Then we have the same idea that basically you can report a profile if you don't like what somebody's offering, or if you think if they have some nefarious purpose on there, you can just file an anonymous report, I should say. So it's completely anonymous. And again, once if it reaches a certain threshold, it just gets kicked off, and that's all. I think that's the best we can do. I mean, we obviously, if the site gets bigger, it's going to be a big problem, because like even Facebook and all these things are absolutely overwhelmed with spam and shite. So this it's going to be a big problem. So I'm hoping that the user base will step up, and they will be helping out with the spam reporting and keeping the site clean, because it's really important, because we're trying to promote good things here, and we're trying to preserve people, create good reputation for people doing good things, and so we don't want to have that being spoiled by people who are taking advantage, or people who are posting misleading offers. That's probably the thing that's going to be the biggest problem for us, is people saying, hey, I can give you this free thing, when actually they're either selling something, or they're trying to exploit you or con you or something like that. Yep. So that's something we have to be careful of. Yeah, of course.
I'm sure that's going to be a huge problem. The more users are there, is going to be a big problem. And maybe what I will recommend, to make the spam reporting maybe more open, so people know how it works, because I didn't know how it works. Like I reported one time just to see how it works, but it just says that I reported it. But it would be maybe nice to give people, make a page or something to explain how it works, like, or maybe they didn't see that. Or
okay, good. Yeah,
maybe that's good. So we know how it works. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Because people can use it for ads as well. Yeah, Cody.
For like music and stuff, and these videos and stuff. So if you were the sole creator of like these things, so that copyright or this DMCA takedowns, like the legal battles, would not exist. What like if somebody wanted to release a song that was just available, no advertising, no whatever, it's available to you to download or something like that. Is that something that would go on ShareBay?
I don't know. I don't know is the answer to that question, because it's obviously a legitimate thing. If it's something that you've done yourself and you own the copyright to it,
Creation,
yeah, absolutely, and it shouldn't be thwarted. The problem the only problem I can see is that obviously it's open to abuse. That I mean, I can release all my Led Zeppelin catalog in there and say, what do you think of my new songs, guys? And
sure.
Next thing, I get a fucking hammer on the fucking through the window or something like that from the record company. So I don't know. It's just I'm very aware. I'm very aware of what happened with Napster. I think that was a really seminal moment. What happened with Napster there, because it was like the end of the free internet. The internet came along and everything was free. Everything was fucking great. And then Metallica came in and they screwed it up. And basically, that was like a really pivotal moment, I think, in the internet. And much as I'd like to support creators, I think we should. Yeah, I think we have to be careful with that. That we're not going to leave ourselves open, because all it takes is just one federal judge to basically just close you down overnight, and that's all. And
actually, these days, the Internet Archive was sued by the biggest book publishing companies, and they asked tens of millions of dollars because the Internet Archive they take books from libraries and digitize them and make them available to people, and they're like, okay, our business is going fucked up now because of you guys, and then we sue you. So Internet Archive is now in a very sketchy situation. So the bigger you get, the more of these sharks will be there to bite you. That's always the problem.
That's interesting. But then I suppose so the Internet Archive is this the archive.org, that site, is it?
Yeah,
I know it. Yeah, so obviously anyone can upload. Yeah, it's kind of like a file sharing thing. Yeah, I have some content up there as well. Yeah, I guess. I think when you obviously submit something to that site, you have to certify that it's your work or that you have the right to share it. So I don't know. Maybe there's a way around that where as long as the user takes responsibility. But then I think isn't there a law in the States where the user is not responsible for the content of the website or something like that? I can't remember what that law is.
I think they are trying to fight that or something, because shifting who's responsible for that. Yeah.
But listen, guys, tell me more about tradefree.org. I mean, how's that going, and what's the big game plan here? Who wants to talk about that?
It's good to bring that into discussion, because I wanted to ask you something about. So, since I left TBP, I kind of shifted my focus to like make things more easily understandable for people. What is the problem, for example? What is the problem in today's world? And everybody was talking about money. Money is the problem. Money. Oh my God, look at money. Money corrupts everything. The monetary system is fucked up. Like 70% of TROM documentaries about the monetary system. I wrote a book about the history of money and so forth as best as I could, and so on. And then I realized that money is just one way of trading. Today there are so many ways that it becomes so hard to spot these perverse incentives of trade. Like social credits, look how big it becomes now in China, or data trading, or advertising. So because I felt like everything gets a bit mushy there, I said, why not just use this word trade and forget about money? Don't even mention money anymore, because what about Bitcoin? What about other cryptocurrencies and so forth? It may make people a bit confused. So I said, okay, let's just focus on that. And because we focused on that, we said, instead of saying, look at these goods and services that are money-free, say, look at these goods and services that are trade-free. Because money-free, Facebook is money-free for you. You don't pay money to Facebook. You don't pay money to mostly to Google. You don't pay money. Go and access Google Maps. Google doesn't ask you for money, but they ask you for something in return. And this is the switch that I wanted to kind of push this project towards. So that's why we say, okay, let's make a trade-free directory where we showcase these goods and services that are trade-free. Forget about money-free. Trade-free, So I'm focusing right now. I don't even talk about capitalism or free market and so forth, because in the end, that's all they are. We just trade shit from one to another, and we put a bunch of rules on top of that, and we call it an economy. When in the end, it's just like a bunch of papers and a complicated mess that all it does is to move shit from here to there. Like, I want something, I need to give something in return. Why do people go to work? Because they need to trade their energy and skills in return for what? Food and clothes and so forth. We just put money in between, and we might get confused because of that. So I think it's a reaction of mine to this online bullshit that is happening nowadays. When I see in the open source, because I really like open source, and we have a TROM-Gyro Linux distribution. When I see this bullshit of saying, oh, this software is free, however, we put ads, however, we collect your data, however, and most people don't understand these things unless you point them out. And that's what the Trade Free Directory does, points them out. Just to give you one example, and then we can maybe unwrap this more. Recently, we, for example, labeled Firefox as not trade free, because the more we look into Firefox, we realize that Firefox pushes their own Pocket, their own service that is paid for. It pushes in every tab. It's getting paid by Google to put Google as the default search engine, or by whoever. Okay, which this is quite. I mean, they want your attention. Why don't they put just the best search engine that they know? No, they put Google. And they have other things that they inject into, like Mozilla file sharing and so forth. So we discuss there. It's a platform where we should discuss such things. Anyone can rate. You don't need an account. You can rate them and say, is it trade free or not? If you make good points and you showcase it's not trade free, it will get rejected. So we want to grow this thing, not only to showcase these services and goods, but to learn more about them, because it's tricky nowadays. Even when you may say, let's share things and make a sharing platform. If you collect data from the users and sell it to Google, you want more than providing a platform for people to share things. You also want their data. Okay, so that's the point. If you understand what we are trying to do here, that's what it is. That's why I wanted to ask you more about this trade versus money or whatever. The reason why I choose to talk about trade is because I feel like money is just one of the trades, and if people focus on that, they lose the focus on the other things. When I saw a TEDx of you talking about trade, I really liked it, because you really focused on trade and what trade is and so forth. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do there.
Well, that's it. And what's the antithesis of trade? There's only one, and it's sharing. That's where I'm at with this thing, because if you don't trade, what are you doing? You're basically giving goods and services unconditionally. And I think I watched your movie or video some years ago about trade, but the first one you did about against trade, I can't remember the name of that one, Tio, but I thought that was really good, because I was kind of at the exact same stage as you were. I was thinking, hang on, it's not money at all. It's trade, and that's where I came to. And that, in some ways, actually, the idea of getting rid of trade is even more overwhelming to people. Kind of like, what, because we're our society, we have all these idioms like you don't get something for nothing, or no such thing as a free lunch. You have all these things that they're kind of, they're insidious sort of lines that say that everything must be traded. And people often bastardize the laws of thermodynamics, kind of say energy created or destroyed, or this is kind of another way of saying you can't get something for nothing, which is absolutely bullshit. Another thing I find kind of amusing is people talking about free energy devices, and I often confuse them by saying, but all energy is free, all of it is free. You don't have to make a fucking stupid fucking device or that thing you download off the internet. Just make a hydroelectric or make a solar panel or something. That's free energy too. This, I don't know, these kind of. But the idea that trade being the obstacle maybe to our progress, I think that's a tough one for people, because people are still very into the idea. Like, you'll see sites like Simbi, for example, which is a barter site. You give things, but you earn credits, and then you buy things with those credits. So again, people are kind of saying, "Oh, this is the future," but it's not. It's still the same fucking thing, Now we have a Simbi dollar instead of a US dollar, So it's all the same, and the same with Bitcoin, of course, as well.
That's why we could, for example, use this word sharing. For example, it's the same. You say, okay, Wikipedia shares its knowledge with people. That's good. That's great. The only reason that I chose to label it trade free is because I want to talk about that trade thing. It's like without this problem, that's just my emphasis. It's a play of words in many cases, and it's also useful for us, to just label things as trade free without trade. It's almost like in the open source software movement. They say open source, but what they mean is like non-proprietary software. So if we are on the same page, then it doesn't matter as much what we call it. It matters to understand what we are getting away from. And I see that you also on your website, you kind of specify that you share there, but you don't expect for people. If people also share things to you, you can also get things. That's great. But it's not like you have to share to get something else in return. So that's why I love the idea. It's definitely whatever we're talking about.
That's what's really important to get across. I mean, there's another website that I run called openaccesseconomy.org, where I kind of go into this whole idea, the theory, that sort of stuff. And it's a wiki, by the way, and any of you guys can get in there and add some content. That'd be great. But basically, it's kind of the idea of proposing this idea of an implicit trade system. But I describe the difference between explicit trade and implicit trade, where explicit trade is you do something for me, I do something for you, of the same subjective value, where implicit trade is I do something for you, but not expecting you to do something in return, but maybe thinking that you will do something for someone else. So kind of like a circular type trading system. Because I think that reciprocity is something that's is kind of wired into us in a certain level. That if you live in a small community of 100 people or something like that, and one person is just fucking terminally lazy and won't do anything and just takes from everyone, I mean, eventually that person will feel the ire of that community. They will be outcast or ostracized somewhat because they're just so visibly not contributing. So I think that a certain amount of reciprocity is something that we can expect from society when people get together. But this idea of that it has to be explicit, like I have to give exactly the same value as what you gave to me, it's so limiting, really, when you think about it. You have like a fucking bag of apples, and I've no way of nothing that you're interested in. I mean, I can't get your apples because I have nothing to give you the same value. Whereas on the kind of an implicit trade system, you say, well, you give me your bag of apples because you know that someday I will probably reciprocate with someone else at some other time. So that's the idea of this idea of the implicit trade system. So
I like how RNLI in UK, it's a group of volunteers that save lives at sea. I've seen this series of documentaries about them, and their mentality I liked. They say, look, we just save people, we don't judge them. And sometimes you could see like really fucked up drunk people endangering their lives and also the lives of those who saved them. But they say, look, we have this thing that we do not ask anything from them. We don't care. You go there, and need help. We don't care that you are drunk, that you are not from this country or whatever. We go there and save you. And I like this attitude of just, you don't ask anything, you just don't ask anything. You just do it for the sake of doing it. And if more people will do it like that, that will be fantastic. But of course, I also understand that we live in a system where it's very difficult to put yourself in a position to do these free things. I'm doing free things for a while now, and it's a struggle financially. It stresses you out from time to time. I was lucky that I got some support for the past 10 or so, not 10, but maybe 5 years. I did it completely without any support for 5. So how are you coping in your own life? If you focus on these things, you also have a job and so forth.
Yeah, well, I did up until the COVID-19. I'm actually like a professional musician. Like I play in places. I play guitar and I play keyboards and I put music out. But really, I'm supposed a professional entertainer, I guess. So I play in lots of places. So it's actually good.
Like Dima.
Like who?
Dima.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So that's my night job.
He's doing well.
Yeah. So I've been working at night time. But then, of course, all the bars and everything is closed. All the venues are closed now, so I haven't been working at the moment. But we're okay. We're in a good situation here at the moment anyway. But yeah, in general, finance-wise, yeah, we're okay. I'm lucky that I'm able to work quite a relatively little amount and actually make a decent amount of money from that. Just keeps me going, and I've been doing that for the last several years or more. So I'm okay that way. What about you?
The sole supporter?
Pardon?
You are the sole supporter of ShareBay, or you rely on donations too?
It's at the moment I'm the sole supporter. Yeah, I'm the only one who's supporting it financially at the moment. But there's a small trickle of donations that were coming from the previous project, the Life Games project, which I think we won't confuse things by going into that now, but it was another project that we did before that we still have some sort of donations. Some people pledge monthly donations to that, so still have a small amount of money for that, which kind of helps pay for the servers and that sort of stuff. But yeah, at the moment it's funded by myself. But yeah, I'm hoping that when things get busier, that we'll be able to maybe get some more donations from people to help keep the service going. And
how do you get the word out there? How do you try to get the word out there for ShareBay?
How to try to get the word out? Well, I have quite a little bit of experience of that now in terms of promoting stuff. I have an idea now of what works, and what we really need, I think, is a really good story. First of all, we need to have something that's really good, that's being shared, or something that's really popular, some important activity on the site. What I've learned over the years is that how kind of the press works and the media work, and they basically you need two things for them. You need a really good story, a really attractive story of some kind, and you need to basically push the story with money. I'm afraid nothing else works, because if you send fucking emails out willy-nilly, and I've done hundreds and thousands of emails like that, they're not interested. But if you pay for a newswire, pay for a professional newswire, they will listen, and that's the unfortunate truth of the matter. And I've proven that many times over, that once you actually invest in actually putting it into a proper newswire, then you get that. So I'm hopeful that at some stage in the next year or couple or two, we'll have some really good stories to tell from ShareBay, and we'll start getting it out to the media. And that sort of stuff is it's tricky, of course. Obviously, promoting stuff out there is really hard, So we'll just keep going little by little. We're small now, but we just keep going. We can progress in a system.
Do you think about a mobile app? Because I'm thinking that many people may be using such things on their phones. Do you think about that? Have you think about that?
Yeah, well, it's completely mobile optimized anyway. You can we will add an option where you can add it to your Chrome home screen on the mobile, so it flicks straight into it. Almost behaves just like an app. We're doing that. I didn't think actually the development of the app was worth it at this stage. The other problem with an app, of course, I think, is that it's an extra obstacle to people using the service, that you have to persuade them to download the app. So it's kind of it's one more hurdle, I think, to do that. So, but eventually, at some stage, we'll know when the time is right, basically, to go to app development. But like I say, it's completely mobile friendly there now, anyway. So.
That's for sure. It's more about the fact that it can be available in these app stores where people usually get their apps from. So it's not even that difficult, as far as I know. You can wrap it like a web wrapper and just use their website. And
yes, I think there's a service called Ionic. I think that facilitates that, where you can basically upload your HTML, CMS, or CSS, and you can basically wrap it into a browser app. Although I think Apple don't like that. I think Apple they slap you on the wrist for that. So.
Oh yeah. I think it's very difficult.
Let me just say, I fucking hate that company with every fiber in my body.
Yes.
It's my one guilty pleasure is that if the fucking revolution comes, I want these guys first against the fucking wall, just to fucking stick a computer up their arse. I just think. They're awful. They are awful. I mean, they really are the worst. The worst of capitalism. They really are. I mean, it's a simple thing. Like, I released an app a year ago for the life games thing, right? And when you release an app, I don't know if you released an app, but if you release an app on Google, you pay $125 up front, and that's it. That's a one-off lifetime fee. In Apple, you have to pay $99 every year, and then they fucking send you emails every couple of months saying, "Oh, your code is out of date. Your code is out of date." And I had to go back to the developer and say, "Well, look, this is it. Can you update this code?" And the fucking hoops they make you jump through to get your app on there, it's like fucking torture. They take your money and they torture you to put your app on their store. And,
They innovate, man. That's innovation, you know.
I've got issues here. I got issues with those guys. Big time, yeah.
Innovation.
Yeah, you're right. But yeah, to the app, yeah, an app will happen eventually, an Android app, hopefully, and fuck the rest.
Yeah, because we made an app for TVP Magazine at one point, and I managed to put it in the Google Play Store, but no, in the like Apple Store, just no way. They will not accept that. You will have to, oh my god, fill up a huge form and then pay money, and I'm like, fuck off, you know, just not going to do it.
Awful people. I hope it catches up with them anyway. So I think it's a good idea to make our apps only available on Android, because it's a much more much better service, really. So I think everyone should do their part to boycott Apple, I think, in terms of apps.
Yeah, but Android is also a big motherfucker. Like, you have to, oh my god, they are eating the entire world with their services. It's just
it's awful.
All of these companies. Yeah, well, it is what it is. Alexio, because you didn't say anything. Let's see, Alexio, what do you think about sharing? Because you know so many goods and services that are based on sharing, and you're also a professor teacher in Romania. So do you rely on these sharing platforms and so forth for your students and the like? Oh, your mic doesn't work.
His mic doesn't work. We can't hear you, Alexio.
Can't hear you.
See if you can unmute yourself, maybe.
Yeah, you're unmuted, but it's not picking up the right microphone.
Now you can hear me?
Yeah, the mic.
Mic's
Very high volume.
Okay, now I'm trying. Okay, now it's okay.
Yeah,
better.
I think that's fine.
Okay, so hello everybody. I'm trying to answer to this question.
Maybe the mic a bit lower, please. Just a bit lower.
I guess my mic is a little bit noisy.
It's very sensitive.
Yeah.
My screen.
Oh, okay.
Maybe?
Say things.
That's it.
Now?
Yeah. Very good.
Thank you. Hello everybody, I said. As a professor at the university in Romania, I'm trying to always find new solutions for my students, new software, new projects I can turn in some nice presentation up to date. And actually I created for TROM-Jaro, a TROM project, a small wiki. I already shared this link on the public chat. It is based like the website I presented earlier on DocWiki. So it's one example of software I'm using for many other projects too. Actually, there are many other ideas and many other solutions we can find online, many projects we can adapt to our needs, and some of them are truly free. And I enjoy this freedom to build, taking something already developed in a very well manner.
Yeah, and these platforms.
That's to my needs. This is related to software, but I think the question is related also to other goods and services I can find online and I can recommend. Some of them are already listed in the Trade Feed directory, or I shared with the TROM people using the TROM chat. But I guess you want to hear from me my opinion about sharing, if I understood well your question.
Yeah, and also ShareBay, if you have had the time to look a bit.
Regarding ShareBay, I already visited a few times during the last days this new project, and my impression is it's very well developed at this stage. I think it can evolve over time. I saw some interesting listings on this website. Some of them I already mentioned to Theo about something that seemed very interesting to me about a similar project, I think, to TROM, but I guess it's not so well developed. This project is from Australia. I shared last night the link on the chat. And from my point of view regarding sharing, it's this idea of bringing something that's needed by others at the right time, in my opinion. And this thing we share needs to be useful and appreciated by the one who receives it. If I'm sharing something to you and you think it's not very useful, it's very probable you won't use it so much, or you will be only polite. Thank you very much for sharing this with me. Maybe a book, to give an example, or something that's not very valuable. But there are some situations when we can share something of a great value and we are a little bit concerned the one who is using it may break it, like a bike, for example, or more expensive, like a car. And we need to trust our peers, the ones who are using some good we are sharing with them. They will take good care of this, and when we need it back or share with others, we can take it back and be ready to use. So there are many small issues we can imagine and discuss about practical examples with sharing. Actually, sharing things online is easier because we are locating something interesting. Usually it's already available to copy or to take away very easily, and we don't care so much. But if it's a physical object who may degrade its performance or how it works over time, we need to find spare replacement parts. This may become difficult. For example, recently I have some issues with some devices at my home, and it's difficult during this situation we know all over the world today to find the right person to help with the right replacement part for this device. So I need to share my knowledge and obtain from others who is the right person to find the very best solution to make it work something I already have. So this idea of sharing is not only related, I have some object or some file and I'm sharing with you. We are sharing ideas, we are sharing our experience and much more. It's not only about physical objects. It's my opinion. So I don't know what to think. There are many ideas I can bring, but I was not since the beginning of your discussion, so I may be wrong. Maybe you already discussed some of the ideas I want to say now. The main concern for me when sharing something, as I said earlier, is the one who receives the thing I want to share will really find it useful, will really use it, will really appreciate the thing I'm sharing with, or maybe it's just polite and leave it unused for a long time.
Yeah, good point. Thanks for that, Alexis.
Thank you.
Alexis, I just wanted to clear up the point when we talk about sharing, we're not actually only talking about lending items. So it's maybe that's a little bit confusing. It's not about I have a bicycle and I share it with someone else. He gives it back to me, or he shared it with someone else. It's about gifting as well as sharing. On the website, actually, I should have mentioned that there is an option there where you can opt to have something available to lend or to give it away completely. So it's when we talk about sharing, it's either lending or it's just giving 100%. So I just wanted to clear that up. Yeah, but in general, thanks for that information, and I think that we will see a lot of ShareBay being used for people sharing knowledge, sharing things that they know about. Like, for example, I put a listing on the other day looking for advice on how to build an Ubuntu computer or how to build a PC that would work well with Ubuntu. And I had 3 people replying to me about that. So that's really useful. That's 3 kind of sharing of knowledge.
How is that working? I saw that listing. How is it working? Like the communication goes to the platform or goes outside of the platform, the communication?
So if you reply to a listing, or if you want to reply to a listing, a little dialog box opens up, or a text box opens up underneath the listing. You write a message to the person, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to ask. When you send that message, it automatically creates like what we call a pending transaction. It's like it's a temporary transaction that you're proposing a transaction with that person. Then they will get your message and see what you want to know or whatever, find out what you want to do. They will also have to. They will be faced with the dialog box on their computer when they open up the site saying that somebody has applied to this for your offer, and do you accept are you going to grant this wish or whatever, or are you going to accept their request? So it's kind of a little bit of there's a kind of a toing and froing sort of process takes place. So when apart from the obviously messaging that happens, but if you reply to my listing, if I'm offering something, I'll get a notification saying that you applied for that, and I have to decide whether I'll accept that you were replying to that, and I will give this item to you. And then after a while, then you will have another message saying that if you're confirming the delivery of the item. So in other words, you have to confirm that I gave you that I followed through on the transaction. So, and it's a transaction doesn't complete until these 3 or 4 processes happen. So that's the way of making sure that the transaction happens, because both of us are kind of doing each step of the transaction along the way. And if there's a listing which is requesting a service, then there's just an extra step that basically you have to apply to give the service, and then you have to acknowledge that you accept their it's pretty boring, really. But the point is that to make this transaction record, we're trying to make it as kind of as bulletproof as possible. So just trying to weed out people from abusing the service, and to make sure that everyone knows what's going on at each stage of the transaction, because it can well happen that more than one person could apply for your listing, and so you need to decide which guy or girl you're going to give it to, and then do all your to go through the transaction process there. And then once the final transaction is confirmed or delivery is confirmed, then the other transactions are cancelled and blah, blah, blah. That sort of stuff happens. So there's a lot of stuff goes on in the background, which was pretty challenging, to say the least, actually, put all that stuff together. But anyway, you know this kind of stuff well.
In regards to the language, I see that you are using, like in my listings, I see also different languages listed there. So is there a way to divide, to say, okay, I only want to see listings in English? I think that was selected at one point when I made an account, but it could be a bug that I still see listings in other languages though, or you separate them.
At the moment, yeah, when you select your preferred language at sign up time, so if you prefer English, it only remarks that as your preferred language. But if if you hit on the auto translate option, then it will automatically translate everything into English that it comes across that's not in English. So at the moment, the preferred language only makes a difference when you actually set up the auto translate. If you set the auto translate function as well. maybe when the site gets bigger, we could actually segregate languages or segregate listings by languages, but I prefer not to do that if possible. I'd like to try and keep it that people maybe will use auto-translate. I have to say, actually, that auto-translate has actually gotten really, really good. It's getting much better. I don't know what Google are doing or whatever, but it does seem to be working a lot better than it did before. I know it's.
I wanted to ask you something about that, about the auto translation, because even if it's a good job, maybe someone offers a service and he offers it in whatever language, Italian, let's say, but I see it in English and I reply in English. So if someone offers a service, then I cannot communicate probably, right, with the one who offers the service in Italian.
You can, because if you have auto translate, it automatically translates the messages.
Right.
So if you're messaging, I mean, it's worked for me, and sometimes I don't even know that the person has actually spoken in another language. It's actually really getting quite good. So I've actually had that where the messaging, there's a kind of a chat window thing when you're talking with somebody, and it automatically translates the messages in real time in there as well. So it works really well. I have to say, the fair play to Google with that auto translate. It's really good.
Well, we all contributed to that, so without
exactly. But as it stands, the preferred language doesn't select any different listings or anything for that. And I don't think it should really. Do you think it should?
I don't know. I never tested to see how well it translates or how it applies to services. I think that's mainly the problem. If I need a service and I need constant help, like some advice or something, or someone offering there some video advice or something, that cannot, it's outside of the platform. So whatever is outside of the platform, it will not work unless they have something set up there. So maybe something to think about. That's something that I noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The auto translate works really well, but like I say, at the moment, the setting a preferred language doesn't change any of the content that you see on the site. And like I say, I don't think it should really. Obviously, most people are listing in English there now at the moment. But at some stage we will have to get to translating the site itself, translating all the strings from the site itself. That's another job, but early days now. It's the auto translate does that okay. It does a pretty good job of that. So, but eventually, we'll translate the site itself.
What did you use
Colin,
to build the website?
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, Dima, you can ask.
Now, I just want to ask Colin, by your observations, how do you see most of the people who post some services or goods on ShareBay or similar platforms? Like, what is their primary motivation? Why they do this? Because let's say if they post something like we were discussing before, like a song or a video, it's maybe like a self-promotion, or maybe they just want to get rid of some junk stuff they've got at home. But I think you also emphasize about that in the beginning, that it's also have to come with some kind of education. You're sharing because it brings us towards the better world and away from capitalism and stuff like that. So do you also plan to implement something about education and educate people more about why you should share? It's like a double question, but
what we're seeing mostly on the site, what people are doing is people are giving things that which comes most easy to them, and that for most people is sharing knowledge. There's quite a lot of people sharing information. We want to share knowledge on computers or stuff that basically you can just send in a message. That there's more of that than there is of physical items. But there's a fair few physical items as well. But of course, physical items are always limited by the distance, so that makes that thing. But a lot of people there are sharing their knowledge or looking for knowledge from others about different things. So that's probably the biggest, most successful part of the site for now. In terms of the education, do you mean actually having a section of the site where it's actually discussing the underlying concept and why we're doing the sharing?
Yeah, maybe even like a start page where all the idea, explained why it's important and why should you share, why should you care about such services and so on.
I'm a little bit wary about going too far into the ideology behind it, because I really want it to be like a mainstream site. And if I start talking about, well, look, this is from the creator of the Free World Charter, or the Money Society, we're going to have all this, and people just can bombard people with what the fuck, so we want to try and avoid that. I just want to try and say, look, here's a simple utility. I'm trying to use neutral language as much as possible, and calling it a library. Like, basically, what we're calling is like a free community-powered library of anything. That's really the sort of terminology that I'm using to describe it, which is kind of terminology that everyone can relate to. You don't have to be a fucking weirdo to understand it or to know that that's obviously a good thing. So, that's what we're trying to do. I want to keep away a little bit from the ideology. And the previous website, freeworlder.com, which was like the precursor to this one, kind of had all that ideological baggage in there. And I think it put people off, or at least it severely limited our audience to these bunch of guys who are good guys, but there's not that many of us, that's the problem, There's always, when you think about trying to get engagement from people, you always start with a huge, big pool of people, and then you have smaller and smaller and smaller circles, like you have the world population, and then you have, the English-speaking population, and then you have the people who are maybe left-wing orientated, then the people who are resource-based economy orientated, and you're getting smaller and smaller and smaller till you end up with fucking 3 people, and this has been the problem with these sites, is that the pool of people that we're really trying to appeal to is very small, in terms of not just the people who agree with you, but also the people who will actively engage with you, and people who will actively get involved and do things that, so that it gets ever smaller. So I think we have to try and keep the ideology as little as possible, and just promote it as just a good thing, just something just to help create a better world, and just leave it at that. I think it's obvious to most people that sharing is a good thing, and one of my friends actually often says to me that he kind of bemoans the fact that, when we're kids, we're all kind of taught, well, sharing is a good thing, we got to share your toys with your friends, and you got to share your bicycle with the girl next door and all this sort of stuff. And then when you grow up, you're going to say, no, go and fucking get a job, go and get a house, get ahead, buy a car, and all this sort of stuff. So it's like all that stuff that we learn as kids, sharing is all like just trodden on when we get into become adults. It's kind of like, okay, you fucking time to grow up now. Forget about that sharing shit.
Now you buy.
Don't trample on some faces, And this is the way this is totally fucking wrong. It really is wrong. So I'm hoping that most people know that in their hearts that sharing is basically a good idea. I think most of us already know that. We all kind of know it's a good thing, but maybe we don't always do it. And so we're trying to appeal to that inner child somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you see, if even people know that it's a good thing and they kind of understand, of course, it's not a bummer to understand that. But if they live in an environment where there are lack of resources for like any basic needs, let's say if I've got something like an old camera, I'd better sell it, rather than to share it to someone, to give it someone for free. And therefore, I think both the environment, the culture, and education, and the sharing, it's all kind of should go somehow together. But I totally agree with you. If you go too deep and too narrow into this, the bubbles, it will get lost. And so
I think one thing we can do. One thing we can
on
use.
Olio. Sorry, sure. I just wanted to mention. I want to mention this quickly, that I saw on Olio, for example, they also have some like let's waste less, and then let's make a difference and other things like that. So I'm not sure that puts away people. You can probably go a bit, and you don't have to go that deep into these things, but just to showcase that sharing is good, and maybe sharing is not that great, or you can have a middle way.
Yeah, I mean, actually, the slogan that we have beside our logo is "Shop less and share more," which actually, by pure coincidence, is actually very similar to the Olio slogan, which I only learned afterwards. But it's their slogan is "Waste less, share more," or something like that. I might order the "Shop less, share more." Right.
Yeah, I like shop less.
Yeah, I think it's good because I think most people are kind of becoming aware that shopping new all the time is not good for the planet. People are starting to wake up to that idea. So I think so. I think that there is an appetite out there for this kind of thing. We just got to connect with the audience. And I think I agree with you, Theo. Yeah, we need a certain amount of just a little bit of educating people why we're doing it and what it's about. I think that's important. But like I said, I don't want to labor the point. Just to say, well, look, this is a good thing, and we know it's a good thing, and let's just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so look, I hope you guys get on there and. Let's try and engage with this, and I hope anyone who's listening to this can be inspired to join the site as well, because I'm really hopeful and I'm optimistic that it's going to go quite big, because the numbers are already quite interesting now at the moment. So it's always nice to know if something is kind of taking off quickly. You kind of know it straight away. Or I said that wrong, but basically, when something is going to be successful, you nearly always get an inkling of that straight away, and I have that inkling about that. So it's still very small and a long way to go, but hopefully, maybe
I want to, because I want my input to be maybe useful, but I want to share with you some just one little nugget of honesty. When I visited the website, what pushed me away a little bit. The only thing that pushed me away is nothing to do with you, but when I saw a lot of listings that are very in the pseudo science kind of spectrum, seeing many people there offering all kinds of, and I was searching to see what is this or what is that. It's just one my honest just my feeling. I want to share it with you. So
no, absolutely.
That's the only thing. I know it has nothing to do with you or the platform, but it can be something that can matter for some people if they will see that. So I hope people post more and more like goods like physical goods or goods. Goods services that are not quite in that spectrum,
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Yeah, and I think one of the problems of being in this particular space with the people that support the Venus Project or the consciousness and all that sort of stuff is that we're kind of, we have people with sort of some strange ideas, that are kind of a little bit maybe at odds with everyone else. So I don't know. I hope I agree with you. I hope that we'll have something more substantial offers and requests. But that's not to say that people won't enjoy those things either. That somebody who's doing, I don't know, some kind of healing or something like that. A lot of people are offering healing and stuff like that on the website. Who knows? Maybe it can help some people in some small way and give them some help. But I sincerely hope that it's going to be more like a serious library of useful goods and services. That's my hope.
Yeah, as long as people aren't like abusing that, where they offer you, whatever healing or whatever, and then they, either they promise, to get rid of your cancer or whatever, and or they ask for money afterwards or something like that, So.
Yeah.
But of course, it's not something you can police because, right.
Well, the same would apply to anything, though, Sasha. For example, anyone could be trying to use it for exploitative purposes. Trying to promote their company or trying to promote their whatever, something that they're selling, or maybe to try and exploit or to rob somebody or something like that. So I think somebody mentioned it earlier. I think we should make more of an issue about the spam reporting feature. And we should make that more obvious to people that we want people to engage with that. We want people to know that it's an anonymous process, and then don't be afraid to use it, because we need to stamp that stuff. Because like even just as Theo just said there, that he got this impression of something that he didn't like and he didn't agree with, and that's absolutely fair enough. And we need to stamp out stuff like that, because it's not just those kind of healing stuff, but even things that looks like scams or selling stuff or advertising, something like that. If people are getting that bad impression from it, there's one listing actually I saw looked like a guy who was selling something as well, and I reported that as spam, so I put it into that process. but yeah, we definitely need to be more proactive with that, and I will take that on board and definitely add in that something into the outgoing email to try and encourage people to do that.
Because we for the trade feed directory, we had the same concern, because we wanted to make it completely like anyone can submit and the submission goes live, and anyone can review and the review goes live. But then we had some spams, and we realized that at least for now we have to police it a little bit to give people we are transparent, fully transparent. Every submission goes there, but we have to look a bit at that, else you will become a complete mess. But in your case, it could be different, because it's like it's difficult to police that kind of content. For us, it might be easier, because there are these goods and services that are not made by those people who submit them, right? But for you, it might be more difficult. Yeah.
Yes,
Noel wanted to say something for a while now, probably.
Yes.
Please, Noel, say.
I have a question. It's a bit of a joke. Can I list $10 like your website? Can I join and put $10?
I think someone did that.
Why not? Yeah. Why not? Yeah, of course. Yes, I can. Like somebody actually listed a $20 voucher for Amazon or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, that's sharing. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, if you want to give away free money, no problem.
All right.
Wow, all right, yeah.
As long as you're honest, right?
But what's the difference? You give away free $50, or you give away an old bicycle. I don't know. It's still resources of some kind. So yeah, absolutely, yeah.
As long as you don't use that to promote your own.
Yeah, that's right.
You say, I give you $10. Well, look at my website. Hey, I will report that. Also, go to the listings and to report some and so forth to help you with that. Maybe, of course, I'm extremely busy. We have our own thing here, but maybe people who listen to this or watch our TROM-Cast can help at least with that. If not with listings, if you cannot put stuff there, at least with make an account and report stuff so you can make it better in that way. That's important.
That'd be great. Yeah, like the more we're trying to encourage people to get on and do as many listings as possible. I think I have about 8 listings on there myself, and well, obviously I'm a fanatical about it more so than others. So, but I think that more people that get this inventory up. This is my watchword, is trying to get the inventory up and make the site more useful to people. Because one of the things that a site like this needs is it needs to reach a threshold where it actually does become genuinely useful to people, and not just a nice idea, a nice ideological thing. It has to be something that's really, truly useful to people. So that's where we need to get to. And we're quite away from that section, that part yet, but we will get there.
Yeah, that's the biggest, I think, the biggest hurdle to overcome, because yes, there are so many alternatives to, like I said, Facebook and so forth. They lack the users and they lack the content, So that's, I think, is the biggest thing to achieve. And I do not know how that can be done. I was talking these days with other people, like, I don't know how other services become so popular and others do not. So I don't know how to reach more people and so forth. But let's see, because in the end, if this is not, and let's be honest here, if this is not useful, if I go there and I want to take something from other people and I cannot find anyone near me, or I want to list something and there is no one who wants it because it's not near me, then it will fade away. It will fade away in time. So that's the biggest hurdle, I think.
Yeah.
Or it could become more service-based, where people basically use it mostly for advice and stuff, and
might happen,
lessons, maybe, if people want to do that kind of thing. Which is nice as well, if if it was genuine.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's the problem with making it global, and
You can have the same problems local also.
Yeah. But maybe the postal thing could also be, if you can implement that.
Pardon?
Maybe the postal thing would also, help. If you implement that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I think. That's got potential, all right, because a lot of people have small items and like things like phones or old laptops, or maybe not laptops, or tablets and stuff like that not using anymore, and it's quite easy to stick these things in the post, and it might be very useful to someone else. And the other thing, that, of course, that I'm quite excited about is the idea of creating like an emergency listing type thing for people who are actually in need of something very fast and something very basic like food and or somewhere to stay or transport or something like that. I think that's especially in the current climate where we're going to be post-COVID, we're going to have this recession thing. So I think that to have something that actually genuinely helps people on a very basic level, I think would be really nice. And so far as I know, no other site app there at the moment that kind of is really offering that kind of blanket service globally. I'm not sure, but anyway, I think that's another possibility, to try and get the thing on the map, And I think if we, in terms of education, one of the things that we can do is success stories. If we have good success stories, then we should go a little bit mad on trying to promote those things. Maybe put a blog together, and we can start promoting these stories out there. Because one of the things that I find that really inspires people, it gets people involved, is when you give a good story about how your site did something, they did X, Y, Z or whatever, how it basically has solved a problem, and and that's basically how a lot of the companies use this kind of a strategy as well. They use success stories to get people educated into what's actually how it works and how you can do it. So. Well,
we can put some. You may hate Apple, but if you put a few iPhones there and say that you share with people, and whoever goes there and makes an account to get the Apple phones, you might get more people to use it. That's how it works in this world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But no, in general, if you will find some close friends and who may put genuine and good quality stuff there from time to time, I think that will attract people to see. Look, they offer really, really good stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I think that good quality items. Yeah. So we kind of try and encourage people to put in some high value items there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, that's fantastic. Listen, guys, thanks a million for this. Yeah.
Is there anything else that we want to say about project? And if not, we will.
Well, I've obviously been talking much more about ShareBay than we have been about trade free, but I'm really.
Oh, it was about that. Yeah, it was about that. So.
I mean, I love the idea of what you're doing with trade free. And have you ever considered the idea of a kind of a trade free brand? Like a special logo. There's a logo for the fair trade. This fair trade logo. That coffee is produced. I mean, you could do this kind of trade free sort of logo thing. Have you got something like that lined up?
Yeah, we were thinking about that. Yeah. We're thinking about that, and we went through a bunch of models and so forth, but we realized that maybe it's not as important if someone wants to make it okay. But we just said let's just use the handprint, logo, because it's more universal. It's even like you can put it on your like I have it here. You see, it's my hand. So it's my own. It's my own. Yeah. But I think, I'm not sure if that is as important to have that. But if someone wants to have it, whatever, we encourage people to put that hand as a trade-free logo. Of course, it's nothing unique about it. But the thing is that we tried to make a unique, kind of like a brand, whatever we may call it. I hate the word, but whatever. And we realized that whatever we invent is not quite unique. It's just not quite. There are companies out there who create logos and they register them. And then they will make you pay in the future if you use that. They create thousands and hundreds of thousands of logos just to register them.
Oh, for God's sake, I didn't know that. But you're familiar with the Creative Commons. These guys, and where you can get a little Creative Commons little banner underneath the bottom of your website. I know, trade
free. That's what we encourage. That's why we encourage people to do it with trade free. We do it with TROM-Jar. We do it on our own personal blogs. Yeah. We put trade free. This is a trade free website, whatever. We do that. Yeah. We contact other people to do it. So maybe they will do it too. Now with the trade free directory, I'm in contact with a few of these organizations who like what we do, and I reach to them and so forth. So we'll see how this progress.
Well, I mean, we'll put trade free on the bottom of the ShareBay site if you want. If you think it's
that will be Yes, and we already wanted to add it to our trade free directory. So
okay, cool. Yeah,
that would be fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
anyway, there you go. There we go. We'll all be millionaires at the end of all this.
Oh yeah.
We have the trade-free corporation.
I like it. Yeah. It's got a ring to it. It's an ironic.
Okay, listen, guys, it's been really good. I gotta have some dinner now. It's been really great talking to you. Thanks
well.
Sure. Thank you for coming.
all you guys. It was great to get a chance to talk to you all individually, but we'll meet all. I'm on Facebook. You know where I am anyway, and or you can get me on ShareBay. You can find me there, and we can talk and do stuff. But let's keep the conversation going, okay?
Hell yeah.
Absolutely, and participate in TROM-Cast if you ever want to participate for other topics. We're open.
Yeah, great.
Okay, we will stay for like 5 more minutes or so, discuss about some other things. But
lovely. Thanks, guys. Love to all. Okay.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks,
Take care, Colin.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Adios.
I wanted to mention that this because we don't have news today, but it's just one news maybe. Dima recommended us this trade-free shopping that he found online. You know, it's very popular in the US now. You just go on the streets and smash windows. So what the fuck is happening?
It's getting very popular, so you have to.
Maybe we should have a TROM-Cast about like that situation.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Next week or so, it is quite interesting, and there's a lot to say.
It's like interesting, yeah. To
And now we've already talked for 2 hours.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, because it's almost like sharing from their part. It's like, oh, it's free.
It's a forced share.
The window was
share.
smashed. So. Yeah, a bit of. But whatever I will say about that is that I'm not surprised. Like, you live in a world with empty heads, basically. People who are quite primitive. They don't know much about the world. Plus, they are so forced by circumstances to not have anything. Of course, these people go out and just smash some windows and take some food for themselves or some gadgets. Of course, if they had enough, they wouldn't do that, or if they could protest in a way that it will work for something, they wouldn't get so pissed off and so forth. But it's a big fucking mess, and it's like, oh my god, primitiveness.
And police are the same primitive creatures, and that's why they behave the way they behave and are brutal, and all kinds of people are racist and all of this, again, from primitive behavior. So
it's everything all together. It's just the culture, the values, and the whole COVID situation, where a lot of people sitting without a job, and it's like 40 million unemployed in America right now. And it's just crazy amount. So of course it's better to go and smash some windows and get some iPhone and toilet paper and some shoes. Better than to sit home. And I totally understand this. I'm just like, it's so interesting, to look at that behavior and like analyze and just
maybe we can do. I mean, I think we should do it quickly because it will fade away in like 2 weeks. I feel like today, like, new things are coming every 2 weeks, like new disasters, new fucking things. So
we don't even know anything about the coronavirus anymore. It's not in not in the headlines.
Who cares about social distancing there in
America?
Sure.
But there's things are really fucked up. Videos.
Wait, what?
No, are you participating?
In the taking of Nike shoes from store?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should. It's straight free. And then you can.
If they don't catch you.
I've seen it.
Yeah. So is there? Where are you now?
Where am I? Or
what city?
Near Atlanta. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just a bunch of people going to the store and they just take shoes, and I'm like,
it's like opportunity for people, to just go and act however disorderly.
It's kind of the same,
whatever,
it's kind of the same like H&M or Apple does when they like push away these small companies, basically smashing their window, and going in and buying them. It's kind of the same. So don't get pissed off, Apple, if they take your phones. You do the same when you go and buy small companies. So fuck off. Or you don't pay taxes. Fuck off.
I had similar ideas when I was watching such videos. Yeah, especially like for big businesses, Like they do the same, but like in a different way.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Good.
On a
They
much
just
larger
care
scale,
about themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
of course.
One of the craziest thing I've seen, like footage, one guy, he just took ATM machine, like this cash giving out machine, like near bus station, and he was trying to
I've seen that
convince
too.
like bus driver to take
But that's not from now. But that's not from now. I think that's for a while. Like it's an old footage because I've seen that a while ago, like months ago.
Okay.
I've seen that, but it's very funny. Yeah. And you're pissed off, like just take me. The girl, no, just fucking take me. That's my thing. A cash machine.
Yeah, no, he was like, yeah, we can share the money together.
That's a good offer. Yeah, maybe next week we'll do one because there are some really crazy videos that I've seen, like police abusing people.
Yeah,
it's
like it's kind of turning into like a police against the people situation. It seems, and
it's
just
like any protest like that.
Mm-hmm.
You go to protest about anything you want, and then at the end you will face the same police and the same guy. You're always against police. But doesn't matter what are your statements and requirements.
Yeah. But I mean, now they're also like, I've seen lots of reporters also, even a reporter getting arrested while he's reporting live.
Yeah, the CNN crew.
Yeah.
But I mean, today like everyone is a reporter. Everyone just standing with their phones.
No, but they have press badge and stuff.
They were legit.
And have legitimate camera, like.
Take them away.
The German dudes from DW were like, we are press. Shooting them. Like, what the fuck? Never happened to us, for someone to shoot us. No, okay. But I don't think it's something that unique. If you look at France and Yellow Vest, if you look at Spain and the Catalonian protests like a year or two ago, you'll see so much violence. Like, and they'll fade away, and not much will happen, unfortunately, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, because they go back into the same scenario that they came from. You protest a little while, then cops, they get a bunch of cops to shut it down and arrest more people. More people get hurt. And then after it's over, then you go back to exactly the same life you were living before and nothing changes.
Yeah.
And the cops it's not like this is going to stop people from being racist or abusing their position of power. You put them back into this position of power in the same shitty situation and they will behave the same way. So if you don't change the environment, you won't change these people. Yeah.
Give them another stimulus.
Trump is going to be like, they don't deserve it.
How is the situation in India?
It's very typical of India. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Rules really don't matter, and most people don't know what they're doing, and everyone just does what they want to.
Seems like the entire world by the description.
It's very typical. I mean, it's all over the world we're seeing the same thing, and it's pretty much the same thing here in India as well. There is no official record that we can openly say that, we can trust this. We don't know if experts are being listened to. It really doesn't look like that it's happening. But because there's so many of us, I think maybe we will make it through, There will be some people left over at the end of this.
Damn.
But you're still one of the richest men in India, right?
Yes, I am. So after that, I couldn't believe it, and I went back and checked with that website, and I don't really think it's the right thing, because recently the finance minister just classified me as lower middle class, and I was like, wait a minute, and I was on top of the moon a couple of weeks back, and now you're telling me I'm lower middle class. I don't know what's happening. It just goes to show, how absurd it is, because people make up these numbers which are supposed to mean something, but they're supposed to mean something to a different bunch of people, and it's really shocking. I mean, almost the entire world runs around these numbers. The weird, absurd, arbitrary point game where they can tell you if you're either, depending on how they measure it, you're in the top 1% or a fraction of that, or no, you're just like everybody else. And it just goes to show that these things really don't mean anything, that you can measure.
Isn't US probably on the top list of democratic countries or something? So is that relevant today?
No, the demos be crazy. I'll tell you that. I don't know if there's any ruling of the people and all of that. It's chaotic, and you would think that with so many advancements in science and all of that, we would be doing better. And the only reason we do get anywhere at all is because of these scientists and working all year round. Even with a majority of the world's population being the way they are, the only way we're going to get through is with science. I don't know how many people are going to see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, technologies.
Scientists are hired for all kinds of like you say. That's is their job. I don't think there are any scientists. Well, maybe there are who think how to organize our society or something. But I don't know. Maybe UN, you might say they want to whatever do, but I don't know. I don't know.
I've been looking at what's been happening in the US, and I mean, how can you not? And it's really shocking that a big source of news are meme pages now. And it's disgusting. I cannot believe it. I mean, people who, the responsibility of truthful reporting and an unbiased picture of events basically falls to people who run meme pages. And this is the reality we live in. And a meme page, It just
people
goes,
are riding the hype.
It is tragic. Like, how do you deal with it when you watch a video of a guy clearly being strangled and says, I cannot breathe, this shit hurts, that shit hurts, I'm dying, these people are going to kill me. You have to live through that. You have to watch it. You have to realize it's happening. And then you see all the chaos that comes out of it. And then all of these people, they don't look at what they have in common. Instead, they're all fighting over what makes them different. It's heartbreaking.
True.
Haven't you guys figured it out yet? Like, how long are you going to do this? The outcome, like you guys say, it's the same thing. It'll go on for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then eventually it fades into the background noise of everything else that can be grouped as leftist, for some screwed up reason. I don't know how to.
We saw last night an interesting documentary that I'll post on Video News soon. It's called The Class Divided. It's a very popular experiment where this teacher divides kids by blue eyes and brown eyes, and showcases how they can make them against each other just by treating one differently. It doesn't matter which one you pick. And the only way to bring them together is to say we are all the same, not to say, oh, let's also focus more on the blue-eyed people or the brown-eyed people. And I feel like today people do the same mistake. They say, oh my God, black people are so discriminated, black people this, white people that, Hispanic people this. Whenever you do that, you basically separate people, even if you try to help those people who you think they are segregated and so forth. But you separate people. You say we have human problems. Segregated. You keep them separated, and that experiment kind of proved it like that. And she even did it with adults. It was kind of the same result. It's a very interesting experiment. Yeah, and it's very interesting. Yeah, and even adults start to become against each other just because of the color of their eyes. Okay, but there is no. That was the point here, because there is no way forward if you say we discriminate the blue-eyed people, and now let's talk nicely about them. Let's put them forward. Let's send women to space because women are so discriminated in science. You do it a bad disservice, actually, to everyone. You should say humans. We are humans, and then put that into people's minds. We are humans. Stop with this fucking dividing us into like based on our genitalia or skin color or eye color, So that's a good point, I think, because people do the same today. They're like, oh my God, black people are being beaten, black people this, black. I understand. But if you do that, you also separate people. So just say human beings. These morons that think that the color of your skin deserves you to get into to jail. These police officers and so forth. They're just uneducated. Just think of it like that. Think like in this way. So we are all humans.
Yeah, I mean, it is that. It's just sit down and realize the problem is not racism or not so much, but it's the fact that we find any reason to do this thing that we call othering. Saying this is me, this is us, and then those are the others. This othering, and I don't know how else to describe it, because you can take away racism and you can bring in something else like class divide.
Yeah.
Or you can find so many ways to separate people, and that's simply because people are diverse. It's one thing to say yes, we're all the same. We're not. Okay, we are all humans. Yes, at the same time we're all diverse, and we have characteristics and things that are similar about us and things that are different. Both these things are true at the same time, but does not give any reason for you to make this choice like who should get more and who should suffer at the expense of whom, because I think this is what ultimately boils down to. We're always going to decide, okay, this is us, this is them, and this one person's got to have more than the other, or
it's only us.
Yeah, it's
only us in this, because we are. What are our differences except those based on our environment, the fact that you are born in a poor environment and so forth. But if you talk about real differences between humans need the same kind of things, a safe environment, more free time, not trade all of their fucking lives, not being incentivized by this bullshit, things. That's kind of what we need, like food and safety and so forth, a shelter and all of that. We kind of need the same things. We are not different, we don't need special treatments really because of the color of our skins or our eyes. Even people who are disabled and so forth, we are still generally, we kind of need the same environment. So I hate when people put them into groups and say black people are discriminated. And I understand, but you also separate them when you put them like that. Say humans have problems. Let's deal with that, maybe. Right?
Yeah, but I know. But when you and I say this, and generally I don't speak for other people, but I think it is understood that we're not trying to co-opt this thing, right? We're not trying to be one of those people who say that, oh, we are this brand and we stand in solidarity with black people. We're going to paint our Instagrams black and, just say nothing, or we're not going to co-opt this movement. I mean, I cannot imagine what it's like to be an African American and go through racism, live with that baggage, and then, the reality is going to be a little bit different. But this is the thing, whether it happens to them, or wherever it happens, this is the thing. It's this othering, and it's just fucking wrong. Just stop doing it, man. Find another thing to do. The shit's not working.
Yeah, because there are many groups of people. Even, say, Romanians here in Spain may be very poorly treated, like paid less. The contracts might be shitty. I know from experience, people that I know, are Romanians discriminated? Yeah, you can say that in March for Romanians, but I will say people, because there are also people from Honduras here, the same discriminated, or from Morocco, So don't just focus on a little branch there, Focus on human beings, I like, yeah. I wanted to say I like this Josh Carlin bit when he says that we are a lot more alike than we are different. He gives this kind of this funny examples. You should try that. It's very, very funny. It's like everybody tells us we are so different, but in reality we are not. We kind of do the same things. We kind of need the same things. Yeah, sorry, Sasha. Yeah.
But I mean, globally, the whole world is that this is like pushed upon us, because I mean, if you look, the minute you're born, you're handed some piece of paper that says, you are Indian, or you are American, or you are whatever, Indonesian. and you're given these documents, and with these documents you have certain rights. You can't enter certain parts of the world, or you can, you're much more privileged if you're from certain parts of the world, and much more disadvantaged if you're from others, and you don't have opportunities. If you're born in Indonesia, you can't just come to Europe or to America and live there. If you're from Europe and America, you can easily come to Indonesia, and all of this. So it's just perpetuated by the system as well.
Yeah, so there are human problems, and then we divided this humanity into these pockets that make no sense. And we should tell everybody about that. Hey, that's nonsense. Like, I like this woman, researcher from this documentary. She's quite well known. She's a very tiny lady. It's almost like the female version of Jack Fresco. And she's like on this TV show, whatever it was, like news. And she's like, stop with the nonsense. There is no race. There is one race on this planet. That's human beings. So we stop with the nonsense. We are not born like hating black people or white people. We learn. If we learn something, we can also unlearn. It's a very powerful video, like a 1 minute video with this woman. I like that. I like that attitude. If we had that attitude more and more, I think it will be more beneficial than not having it.
I think she's a primary school teacher. I've seen a bunch of her videos. And
yeah, they're really good.
Yeah. It's an interesting documentary, yeah. But not much progress, apparently. No one can do that seriously.
No, because there are well-studied reasons for that, and there is a bunch of people really benefit from these divisions, and that's the reality of it. There is disproportionate amount of benefit goes to a bunch of people because they keep these differences alive. Now, it is very easy to hate them, especially if you have to be on the direct receiving end of that kind of prejudice, and especially over generations. It's very, very easy, and it's very easy for me to say that don't hate and let's, but you guys, everyone's tried that. We've been trying that for a long time, generation after generation. Let's harbor this hate, and then let's see. It doesn't change. Okay, for every mile that people protest, you gain an inch, and it's so easy to lose that inch. It sets you back. I mean, look at this kind of writing. I think last time it happened, maybe in the 90s in the United States. I might be wrong. Noel, you can correct me. But I remember my parents, when at one point my father had to work in Arizona, and I was like a year old or something. They had to take me, and we had to land in New York. And all of my relatives and everybody in immigration told me, get the hell out of New York as soon as you can, because they're shooting Indian people.
What?
Yeah, I mean, this apparently happened. And, they look for the dots on the head. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a very convenient target. See, now that's why you should not be.
We already have a bullseye.
But nobody stops to. I mean, people look at these strange things and then they say that, okay, why are these people like that? Why do they want to stand out? You have to understand, people evolved these things in isolation. Okay, the dot heads didn't know that they would go to a place where this dot would be seen as something strange. Everybody around them were dot heads.
Right. Okay,
but this ends up making you a target, and it's the same shit again and again. So easy. Okay, it's so trivial that you can hate somebody. You can be manipulated into hating people, which is what you see these excessively violent police people being able to do. They're the people who've been encouraged to show these violent tendencies and violent action, and only they've chosen to do it in a way where they know that they're supposed to do it by the state or elements within the state. It's the same as, I don't know, joining an army or a military. They literally teach you how to kill people, and you go stand there and you have to meet everyone else like you, but wearing a different uniform, who's there to do the same thing to you.
Mm-hmm. True.
Yeah, of course, and these platforms like Facebook and others are, for the sake of profit, they will put people in, feed people whatever keeps them onto their platforms the most. So they also contribute to this big noise. They funnel it very nicely to people who they think they will they will enjoy it even more, stay on their platforms. So they're quite great at that, but it's business as usual. Clients, like SpaceX will be probably sending spying satellites if they does their contract with their SpaceX, whatever. When you are a company providing services, then that's what you are. Well.
And I just hate the fact that when people say that it's business as usual, as if that statement sort of wipes away any sort of moral obligation you have to your actions.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not something that is universal either, because some things can be good businesses and some things are bad businesses. Like if there are many places where prostitution is illegal and it's frowned upon and shamed, but it still happens, and then there are other places where it's celebrated. And how do you grow up in this? Because I'm freaking out right now. How do you tell the people who will come after us all of this nonsense? It's bad enough that I have to live it. It really is like a giant ass cult where you have to believe certain things. And if you want to be allowed access to food, clothing, shelter, dignity, and all of these things, you have to believe fucked up shit. Right? And that's why I think, when I see people like Colin or you guys doing the things that you do, very few people who are doing the right thing. This really, really mad world that doesn't even know it's mad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe we can understand why that is. I have my theory that this trade-based society really fucks things up, and in all regards, like keeps people busy, people narrow-minded, focusing on the prize and not on the whatever they are doing and so forth. There are many other things at play, but I think that's one of the biggest influence by far.
Lack of education.
That's also because of that, because you have to train people to become workers.
I mean, think about it. I don't think it's education at all. At all. I mean, extremely intelligent people, extremely well-educated people are not questioning how.
Yeah, I mean, lack of relevant education, like learning about human
education
behavior.
doesn't mean being knowing about atoms or whatever.
Yeah.
It means to know about
it's
how
not
the system
a degree
works.
in university.
Yeah. I don't mean because now today's education is just pointed at getting some job again, trades. So I mean, actually learning about how the world works, how humans work, these kind of things. So the system works.
Human behavior and our system is like two biggest topics that people should know something about, but they don't know.
Because of course, most very highly educated people in this society don't question society.
Diplomats, people with diplomas.
I mean, it's always been like that, hasn't it? Because I was reading somewhere just during one of the really frustrated moments where you Google random shit like economics is actually astrology for dudes. And as sexist and wrong as that sounds, it was this weird link of Reddit pages and Quora answers and an Aeon essay, all leading to the fact, drawing parallels between how astrology was used to organize society in ancient China to how the predictive models of economics are today. And it's eerily scary, the similarities between the things. And in ancient China, these astrologers, they built advanced models to predict eclipses and everything, which did not need heliocentrism. Okay, so it's possible to build these really complex models to some degree of reliability without even, acknowledging that the sun is at the center of the fucking solar system. It's possible to do it with some real magic geometry that, the average person cannot process. But it didn't stop them, and they still did it. And in a weird way, economists, I feel, do that all the time. All the time. They build models that predict no shit, but only economics can figure that, economists can figure that out. And everybody sits around listening to them, and there has to be an economist somewhere. And it's all great. I mean, I feel most of the time, economists, what they do is that they validate They find reasons to keep trade going. That's it. Trade cannot be wrong. So we must find more and more mathematics. See, today math is the fact, right? If an economist wants to stand in the same room as a physicist or a chemist or a biologist, right? Oh shit, what am I going to do now? How do I give my research legitimacy? Let's put in math. So then they flood you with statistics. Statistics are not facts, right? Facts are statistically consistent. This difference economists don't give a shit about. So they co-opt everything. But economists are not bad people. The environment forces them to do it. It's like you have to start thinking this way. You know, like stop hating people and really start hating the game. And then, you know, get away from hate because it's just, and then, you know, try and figure out what to do about it. Because hate is useless.
And there we go. We made another TROM-Cast. We don't have to do one next time. So thank you, Shaz, for that.
Thanks, Shaz.
That was a really good rant.
I held it in for so long. I thought I was going to get away by not saying anything this time.
Maybe you feel a bit better now, huh?
Yeah.
Or not?
TROM-Cast shouldn't be my therapy, man. Come on.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe we'll talk more about this next time. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see. But just participate, because you see, when you don't participate and you miss like 10 TROM-Casts, then you want to say too many things, and then but they're very good things.
Fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point, man. That's a fair point. I keep it.
That's a great rant. I'll remember the one about astrology. I think it was a good point. Maybe I'll use that if you don't put any copyright on it.
No. Just I have no copyright on it. I ran into it on Google because I was like really angry with whatever, and then just Google it. Economics is astrology for dudes. It's nothing. It's terribly sexist, but super funny. And,
I would recommend to Sir Exit. It's like, instead of Google, just go into the directory and you'll see there are so many great search engines that we use now. They're super great search engines.
Okay.
So Sir Exit or whatever.
What?
Okay, we are like almost 3 hours now into the cave of mysteries. Let's do. Okay, let's end this, and we will make more TROM-Casts. Don't worry. And thank you, Alexia, for participating. Maybe you will participate in the future. Okay. Please.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Alexia. Okay, then we can close this and give Shaz the captain badge and be like, hey, he was the captain